people put out. Without that, it would not be a fun job, I can tell you.
I'm just putting back something that I was given. He said, I've taken so much more away than I can give. I'd work for nothing.
It's a blessing to have these kinds of people as friends. And I mean, they're big people.
Yes.
Big in heart and soul. And I'm glad to have friends like that.
Well, from the time I was 10, I knew two things. I knew I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, and I knew I wanted to work in the HVAC industry. And I have no idea to this day why.
I took an HVAC class, the only one they offered, and it wasn't taught by a university professor. They had some guy who'd been a consulting engineer, and he taught it on Saturday mornings.
People were giving me copies of articles or the Ashrae handbook and telling me to look here for this calculation.
It was basically, my engineer says, don't come in my office without you belong to Ashrae.
I got one cold call from one of local chapter member. I just don't know. I still don't know how he got my phone number. Anyway, he's like, "Ben, do you want to come into our meeting? By the way, we need a treasurer." I said, "Okay, maybe one thing at a time."
Everything changed for me with Ashrae when my boss could not make an Ashrae meeting and he sent me in his place. And as nervous as I walked into my first TC and the room was filled with all of my customers.
I think I paid $8, or something of that for my student membership. But the best part was I got the thick green 1981 Ashrae Fundamentals book. And it has so much cool data in it that I could use and learn from.
And I went and sat in on a couple of committees. As a very young man, young practicing engineer, technician, and was in awe of the brain power at the table.
I found like-minded people when I first started participating in Ashrae.
And with my father having already been in Ashrae, there was no question but what I was destined to be part of the Ashrae family.
I had to bike myself to the American consulate and request them to get these standards. So that was my first experience. So I fell in love with Ashrae at that time. It's almost 50 years ago.
When I started, I had a calculator. I had my sling psychrometer, a compass, a few other things.
My first desktop that I got at the office had a 5 megabyte hard drive with two 2.5 megabyte partitions.
And of course, international phones were very, very expensive. So if you had to call somebody, you just wrote them a letter and waited a month for the answer.
It was all hand drafting, and we had vellums and we had mylars that we would do hand drafting. We'd put them back in the drawers and then pull them back out when we need to make changes on them.
First starting out as a student, I was under the impression every building was perfect and always ran right and everything was great, but I was told otherwise pretty quickly and learned that firsthand.
There will always be a need for a technical society such as ours in in our particular specialty to provide the expertise that we do provide and to come together as volunteers to be able to make that happen.
Is making sure these buildings are more sustainable, greener, so that it helps the future generation. That includes my daughter. She's young, and I hope that I leave a good world for her to live in the future.
The little contribution each one of us can make will help leave a legacy, and I don't believe it's necessarily the legacy of each individual person. I think it's the sum of the parts that gives us an opportunity to be major players in the next 125 years.